Ever wondered why your motorcycle rides feel clunky, unpredictable, or downright stressful? Beginner riders often misuse the clutch without realizing the consequences. From poor gear shifts to worn-out plates, small habits can cause major problems. Are you relying too much on the clutch in traffic? Do you shift gears without full engagement? Is your clutch adjusted correctly? Let's break down 5 key mistakes new riders make and how to avoid them. So, let's take a look at the first, and arguably the most foundational, clutch error you need to stop making. Every rider remembers their first shaky takeoff on a motorcycle. It's almost a rite of passage. Feet shuffling, engine growling, the bike lurching forward or stalling completely. While it might feel like a small mistake at first, most of these awkward starts come down to one thing: not understanding the clutch's friction zone. And for beginner riders, ignoring this fundamental area can be the root of a lot of trouble. The friction zone isn't just a technical concept. It's the fine line between control and chaos when you're trying to get the bike rolling. So what exactly is it? The friction zone is the small range within the clutch lever's movement where the clutch plates begin to engage. This is where power from the engine starts to reach the rear wheel. When the clutch is fully pulled in, the plates are separated, and no power is transferred. As you begin to release it, the plates come closer and start engaging. This is your friction zone. It's incredibly important during low-speed maneuvers, starting from a stop, or navigating tight areas. Yet, it's exactly where beginner riders often go wrong. Instead of gently easing into that zone, many new riders release the clutch too quickly or treat it like a light switch, either fully on or fully off. The result? The bike either jerks forward uncontrollably or stalls out completely. In some cases, this can even be dangerous, like when you're trying to pull away at a green light with cars behind you, or if you're maneuvering on a steep incline. Getting it wrong doesn't just frustrate the rider, it also places unnecessary strain on the engine and clutch assembly. The trouble is, a lot of riders don't take the time to consciously learn where their bike's friction zone actually is. Each motorcycle is a little different. Some have a narrow friction zone that engages quickly, while others may have a smoother, more forgiving transition. That's why every new rider should spend some dedicated time finding and feeling this point on their specific bike. A good way to do this is in an open space like an empty parking lot. Sit on the bike, hold the clutch fully in, and slowly begin to release it while gently adding a bit of throttle. As soon as the bike begins to move forward, pause. That's the start of your friction zone. Repeat this several times without actually riding off. Just feel that engagement point until it becomes second nature. This will not only help with smoother starts, but also build your confidence in traffic or on hilly terrain. Once you've learned to respect and control the friction zone, everything else starts to feel more manageable. But just as important as knowing how to use the clutch is knowing when not to use it. Because if you start relying on the clutch for things it wasn't meant to handle, that's when you begin to build habits that wear it out faster than you realize. It's a common misconception among new riders that the clutch is a tool for managing speed. Many use it as a crutch, slipping the lever halfway to slow down or glide through low-speed traffic. While it might feel smooth at the moment, overusing the clutch lever this way puts unnecessary wear on your clutch plates and limits your throttle control. The clutch was never designed to regulate speed over long stretches. That's the job of the throttle and the brakes. When you ride with the clutch partially engaged, especially at slower speeds, you're constantly creating friction between the clutch plates. This generates heat, reduces the life of your clutch, and in some cases, leads to slippage. You'll notice the bike doesn't respond as crisply when you roll on the throttle, or you'll feel a lack of bite when you try to accelerate. For many beginners, this becomes a long-term habit simply because it feels like the safer option, like a kind of comfort zone that helps them avoid stalling or jerky movement. But this false sense of safety can work against you. By relying on the clutch instead of proper throttle control, you miss out on learning essential riding skills, like how to balance throttle and brake inputs effectively. More importantly, it builds the wrong kind of muscle memory. The longer you ride this way, the harder it becomes to correct later. Think of it like coasting in neutral, except you're slowly burning through a vital component every time you do it. The solution is to treat the clutch lever with purpose. Use it primarily for starting from a stop, stopping completely, or shifting gears. Once you're moving, your right hand, on the throttle and brake, should be doing most of the work. If you find yourself constantly slipping the clutch to manage slow movement in traffic, it's a sign you need to improve your throttle finesse. Practicing slow-speed control exercises can help. For example, riding in a straight line at walking speed without using the clutch as a balancing tool trains you to manage engine power more precisely. Once you break the habit of overusing the clutch, you'll notice your bike feels more responsive, your hand fatigue reduces, and the clutch lever becomes less of a security blanket and more of a precision tool. But learning when not to overuse it is only one half of the equation. The other half is knowing exactly how to use it when shifting gears, because doing that wrong introduces an entirely different set of problems. One of the most overlooked mistakes beginners make is shifting gears without fully engaging the clutch. It usually starts with trying to be quick. In the rush to change gears, some riders either tap the gear lever before the clutch is fully pulled in, or worse, shift gears while barely using the clutch at all. The result? Harsh transitions, jerky responses, and eventually, damage to the transmission. The clutch's main role during gear shifts is to temporarily disconnect engine power so that the gearbox can transition smoothly from one gear to another. Skipping or partially skipping this step causes the gear dogs to grind or miss. Over time, this kind of pressure wears down internal parts that aren't meant to absorb that level of friction. It's not just about mechanical damage, though. Clutchless or mistimed shifting affects how your bike behaves, especially during downshifts, where engine braking becomes unpredictable. Some experienced riders do shift without the clutch on certain bikes, but they do so under very specific conditions with careful throttle timing. For beginners, this practice is not only risky, it sets a bad precedent. If you're constantly jerking forward after shifting or hearing a loud clunk, it's your bike telling you something's wrong. Proper shifting technique involves more than just pulling the lever. It's about coordinating three things: throttle control, clutch engagement, and gear timing. To upshift smoothly, roll off the throttle slightly, pull in the clutch, shift gears, and release the clutch in a controlled manner while rolling back onto the throttle. For downshifting, the process is similar, but requires a bit more finesse, especially at higher speeds. You need to match the engine speed to the lower gear to avoid sudden jolts. Practicing these shifts in a safe, open environment helps reinforce the coordination required. Start with lower gears and gradually work up. Pay attention to how the bike responds. A clean, smooth shift should feel almost invisible. No sudden movement, no weird sounds. If you notice a delay or a jolt, revisit your clutch timing and throttle adjustment. Mastering this will dramatically improve how your bike responds to inputs, especially in traffic or while cornering. And once you've got your shifts dialed in, the next step is to make sure you're not holding the clutch in when you don't need to, because that's where another mistake begins to wear your clutch out silently, mile after mile. Another habit that creeps in silently, especially during long city rides or stop-and-go traffic, is riding the clutch. This happens when a rider keeps the clutch partially pulled in, even while moving, instead of fully releasing it after a gear shift. It may feel like you're just staying ready to react, but what's really happening is continuous friction inside the clutch system, and that comes at a cost. When the clutch plates aren't fully engaged or fully disengaged, they grind against each other. This generates heat and leads to premature wear. Even worse, this habit often goes unnoticed until it's done real damage. Many beginner riders develop this habit out of caution. You might think, what if I have to stop suddenly? Or, I'm not sure the gear change was perfect, so I'll just hold the clutch halfway for now. These thoughts are understandable, especially in heavy traffic, on inclines, or while navigating corners. But consistently riding the clutch in these moments puts the plates under strain, especially when done over short intervals repeatedly. It's a bit like tapping your brakes every few seconds. You may not feel it immediately, but over time, it adds up. The symptoms of this issue aren't always obvious at first. Some riders notice their bike begins to rev unusually high while barely gaining speed. or that their fuel economy drops slightly without any apparent cause. Others may feel the clutch lever gets spongy, or the bike lacks that usual grip and pull when accelerating. These are early indicators that the clutch is being worn down by partial engagement. The proper technique is to treat each clutch release as a complete action. Once you've upshifted or downshifted, let the lever out entirely. There's no benefit to hovering your fingers over it unless you're already slowing down or preparing to stop. In traffic, this means moving in clean bursts, engaging the clutch, rolling forward a few meters, then disengage and wait if necessary. It may feel a little mechanical at first, but your clutch components will thank you for it. It's also important to be conscious of your hand position. Some riders keep 2 fingers resting on the clutch lever at all times, ready to react. While this seems harmless, it can lead to accidental pressure on the lever, resulting in minor but constant slippage. A better habit is to keep your entire hand on the grip when not actively shifting. Only reach for the clutch when it's time to use it, and let go fully once the action is complete. There's also the matter of hill starts. Many new riders rely heavily on the clutch to control the bike while stationary on an incline. But instead of keeping the clutch half engaged and the bike balanced on friction, it's better to use the rear brake or find the biting point only at the moment of takeoff. Riding the clutch on hills is a fast way to burn it out, especially if done often. And while misuse, like riding the clutch, causes premature wear, failing to maintain or adjust the clutch properly can be just as damaging. This brings us to the final mistake, a mechanical oversight that many riders ignore until it becomes a real problem. Neglecting clutch maintenance and adjustment might not seem like a big deal at first, but it directly affects your bike's performance and safety. Like any mechanical component, the clutch system is subject to wear, and without proper attention, it gradually becomes less responsive. The most commonly overlooked aspect is clutch lever free play, that slight bit of movement in the lever before it starts to pull the clutch cable. Too much or too little free play throws off the clutch's engagement point, making it harder to control and risking premature wear or poor gear engagement. If your clutch has too little free play, the clutch plates may stay partially disengaged even when the lever is released. This leads to constant slippage, heat buildup, and loss of power. It's one of the most common reasons for a clutch to wear out faster than expected. On the other hand, too much free play can prevent the clutch from disengaging fully when the lever is pulled in, causing hard shifts, gear grinding, or the inability to shift into neutral when the bike is stationary. Checking the free play is a task that should be part of your regular maintenance routine. You don't need a garage or professional mechanic to do this, just a few minutes and a bit of attention. Most bikes are designed with an adjuster knob near the clutch lever or further down the cable near the engine. The owner's manual for your motorcycle will usually specify the correct free play, typically about 10 to 20 milliliters of movement at the tip of the clutch lever before resistance is felt. It's also wise to routinely inspect the clutch cable itself. Over time, cables can fray, stretch, or get stuck inside the housing, leading to inconsistent feel and poor engagement. Lubricating the cable with a recommended lubricant keeps the motion smooth and reduces resistance. If your bike uses a hydraulic clutch, you'll want to monitor the fluid reservoir for both level and clarity. Old fluid should be flushed and replaced, just like you'd do for brake fluid. Skipping this can lead to spongy lever feel or erratic clutch response. Other areas to inspect include the clutch lever pivot point and the lever itself for signs of wear or bending. A slightly bent lever might still function, but it could affect the engagement range, throwing off your control without you even noticing. Clutch maintenance might not be as glamorous as installing a new exhaust or adding performance parts, but it's what keeps your ride functioning at its best. A well-adjusted, properly maintained clutch makes gear changes smoother, increases the lifespan of your transmission, and gives you better confidence on the road. It's a detail many riders neglect, but one that separates casual riding from skilled control. Pairing smart maintenance with good riding habits, like respecting the friction zone, avoiding overuse, shifting deliberately, and never riding the clutch, will set the foundation for years of smoother, safer rides. For beginners especially, getting this part right isn't just about protecting your machine, it's about building trust in your own control. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.